Good morning, students. Today we continue with the discussions on postcolonialism, and now we have reached the prescribed text Orientalism by Edward Said. Actually, you have to study just an introduction, just the introduction part of Edward Said's Orientalism, the text. In this class, I will be providing an introduction to the author and to the book in general. Then we will move to the text as such. Talking about Edward Said, he was one of the most important cultural critics of the late 20th century. He was a Palestinian American academic and also a political activist. He pioneered the study of how empires, that is, a group of countries ruled over by one state, how empires developed and functioned. Edward Said's work was so important that he is widely considered to have founded the area of study called post-colonial theory. And as you know, as you have studied, this field tries to understand how and why colonized countries developed the way they did in post-colonial era. So you have looked into all those things, all those ideas. Coming to the author, Edward Said, he was born in 1935 in British Mandate of Palestine to a Palestinian mother and a Palestinian American father. He grew up in Jerusalem and then Cairo, where the family headed in the aftermath of the 1948 Arab Israeli War. Edward Said was educated mainly at top British and American schools, but it is said that things did not go smoothly. He was expelled from Egypt's Victoria College in 1951, and later he went to an elite boarding school in Massachusetts in United States. He was unhappy there too, though his intelligence shined through and he moved on to study at prestigious Princeton University before gaining his PhD in English literature at Harvard University in 1964. By this time, he was already starting out on an academic career at Columbia University in the Department of English and Comparative Literature. Edward Said's Middle Eastern background and also his status as an exile set him apart from all his colleagues. Western universities at that time were not multicultural, and Edward Said stood out for being both Arab and foreign. His elite US private education meant that, however, he was both an outsider and an insider, which gave him a different intellectual perspectives from his colleagues. While he clearly had a great respect for the books he studied, even when he was criticizing them, he was able to look at Western literature and its link to imperial, political, and economic realities with a different eye. He spent his entire career at Columbia from 1963 until his death in 2003. and his main achievement was in promoting and establishing colonialism as an area of study in the humanities. Orientalism, which was published in 1978, explored the impact of colonialism and Western perceptions of countries that had been once colonized. He explored the similar themes in later books such as Culture and Imperialism and later covering Islam. He became professor of English and comparative literature in 1991 and played a huge part in shaping post-colonial scholarship at Columbia. The university is still home today to a large number of post-colonial academics. So you can see the pictures there. And one picture shows that was a controversial picture where you see Edward Said throwing a stone. So that was a controversial picture. This is the story behind it. So he once went to visit Lebanese border and there was this Israeli guardhouse. And this photo which captured Mr. Said with his arm reached far behind him, ready to throw, appeared in newspapers and magazines in Middle East and the United States. It was said that he did that he said that this is his statement, it is a symbolic gesture of joy that Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon had ended. So it was this act of joy. And that created lot of controversy. And Columbia University was, was asked to reply for this act. And later we saw that the university came up with a reply that it belongs to Edward says academic freedom. We can't do nothing about it. So that was a controversial issue. So he, as I said earlier, he was a political activist and he wrote what he believed and it was there in his actions too. Now we move to what does Orientalism, the text, say? Orientalism is a critique, an analysis of modern European colonialism. The book argues that colonialism was not only a system of political rule but also an all round worldview that simply believed the West was superior to the East. We have discussed all these ideas earlier too. In this book, he examines all those scholarly debates about Near Eastern cultures, especially those that were mainly Muslim. He then challenged common Western assumptions that these colonized societies. Because he was looking at academic debates, Edward Say's work in Orientalism was designed to show that the academic world was closely connected to the system of political power. Edward Said was seeking to prove that academics had in effect collaborated in the West domination of the East. He tried to argue that European colonialism was really about taking advantage of colonized people's labor and their resources, while claiming that the Western colonial power was a savior, helping these societies to be more modern like Europe. This was easier for the colonial power to do because it consistently categorized the Orient through the eyes of degrading stereotypes. He wrote that this colonized thinking did not go away when the colonial rule ended in the early 20th century, but it continued in different forms. This was made easier when the United States emerged as a huge global power, and according to Edward Said, they showed a clearly Orientalist view of the world. And he wanted academics and society to admit that racist, colonialist ideas had been supported by Western academic thinking and that the one depended on the other. Always his ideas were controversial, but there is no doubt that these ideas have helped to change the way colonialism is understood now. So we come to the question, why does Orientalism matter? Orientalism is a very important book that has had a wide influence both in universities and in politics. It is a key text in post colonial studies and was considered revolutionary when it first appeared in 1978. Here he shows how academic writing can deeply be connected to the politics and workings of colonialism and how the one fed the other in order to justify the West's self imposed status as a superior culture. According to him, colonialism wasn't just the act of colonizing a particular place, it was an all encompassing way of understanding the world. Orientalism laid out its arguments in an interdisciplinary way, breaking down boundaries between academic disciplines. In setting out his arguments, Edward Said covered everything from painting, literature, to travel, to political writing. When you go through the introduction, you will understand that. In this way, this book influenced many areas of study across the humanities and social sciences, as well as bringing a brand new perspective to studies of colonialism. This book also challenged academics to look at their own ways of working. For these important reasons, Orientalism is still an extremely relevant book and continues to influence and direct scholarly work that look to understand society and culture. So, this is a basic introduction to the author and the book Orientalism. We will continue the discussion in the next classes too. Please prepare your own notes. If you have any doubts, please clear now itself. Thank you, girls. Have a nice day.